watched a documentary, and it was called The Stairway, something about a court case in America where a woman had fallen down the stairs. It was on Netflix, and it shows you really the corruption that can happen in the justice system. Because right as the police arrived on the scene, they'd already made up their mind on what had happened and who the killer is and everything else. And when you watch it, you are gobsmacked by the end of how much of a mistrial really it happened, and that the man didn't get a fair trial and he went to jail probably when he shouldn't have. It's on a limited series, and then I was informed about another series about Making a Murderer, something that happened in the 80s, still to watch it, about Scott Avery and how he was wrongly convicted, and then he was going to sue people for being wrongfully convicted, and the minute he did that, somehow he was responsible for another murder. And see, I like to think when we watch these films, and I love court cases, I love favourite detectives, Sherlock and Columbo, and you know, you've got things like CSI and stuff like that, and so you put all your energies and into thinking, right, we're at a state now where we can find out through DNA samples or blood splatters and everything else that it would be very hard to get away. But no, even this system can be corrupted in this system. And I mean, I probably knew this all this time, you know, and so even the police, the forensic scientists and everything. God, I watched Quincy, MD, and it just made me think about, you know, and if we cannot trust the law, do we really need the law? Because let's face it, there's umpteen things around the world that's governing us just now, you know, whether it be religion, law, or the state of the world. And we follow these rules because we like to believe that these people know best. And then we find out, you know, that we hear different versions of the story, and we abide by these rules because everybody else does it. And then, but when things like this happen, when the law and things like that go against you, you know, either just because somebody didn't like you, or the colour of your skin, or your background, or your religion, and they have it, and you forget about evidence, forget about a fair trial, if some sort of rich attorney or lawyer, solicitor feels the need to burn you, well, that's it, you're done for. So then we look at areas where there's no government, or villages where we go back years and years, where we have small communities, you know, tribes and whatnot, and it's, you know, things like in the Amazon and everything else, and you think, well, how do they police themselves? How do they govern? Because they're in a community and everyone knows everyone. And now in these communities you don't have DNA sort of stuff, right? You don't have that technology. So how would they solve something like a crime or a murder? Well, I can't tell, but what I can presume is, first of all, they'll have to, they can't just choose whose fault it is. If they don't have proof, they work together to either find it or they move on until everyone in that community is happy with the evidence put forward for them. So now when you look at the law here, the law, as we all probably know, the law is really there for the rich people. And if you're rich, you'll get away with it. Or, here's the thing, not that you'll get away with it, but you've got the money to actually get somebody that's good at what he does and spends a lot of money gathering the evidence to prove that you're not guilty. And this can go on for years. And I'm not just talking about crime, I'm talking about any law where you have been wronged, whether it to do with banks, whether it to do with things like asbestos and everything else. They will draw that out, and they really just want a quick pass a sign, get the money. So what about the poor people? Well, you get things like legal aid or something like that. And these are so-called lawyers that are very cheap, but probably not as good as the most expensive lawyers. So if you're going to have one of these legal aiders up against somebody who's prosecuting you is probably wanting to be the next senator or next somehow judge or something, then that person is going to really wipe the floor with the legal aid. So then we come down to the cost. And to me, just like the NHS, I think everyone is, if we're in a society, really of humanity and a society, that we're all wanting just to be truth. Now, they've done away with the death sentence because, rightfully enough, we can't be certain of the guilt of a person. We've tried everything from lie detector tests to torture to everything else to try to find the truth on what happened. And the only way to do that is if you filmed it. Hence this big idea of Big Brother's watching you. Let's all bring cameras everywhere so no one can get everything, but then that is too controlling. So all I would think to do, and now when nurses and doctors come in, and there's a place in New York, over in Britain, we all pay for the NHS and it's for everyone. In America and other countries maybe not the same, you have to pay for it. But in a minute I watch a series called The New Amsterdam, and there are doctors there and nurses and everything else that try to thing with the system so they can treat the people that are not well off. They kind of go against the rule book. And for me, that's how everyone should be when it comes from medical help to legal help. Everyone's should be, should have the equal sense of protection and help. And so I get it, some lawyers, doctors and whatnot are better than others. So how would you choose that if one person's not more expensive? Well, what I would think is you have the prosecutor and the defence, and they both want their arguments won because they get points if they win a case, and they argue against it. Right, so we're constantly arguing. But maybe it's time for the prosecutor and the defence to actually work together, and try to, get the law system where you have people, the law and everything else, putting all the facts down and not trying to convert 12 people or the jury to believe what you want to believe, right? Because these 12 people, by just looking at somebody, can judge, within 2 minutes he'll say, I don't like him, he's guilty. I don't like. Famous film that I love watching is 12 Angry Men. When they were already in the middle of a heat wave and they thought, let's just, guy's guilty, that's fine. One person stood up and says, no, we need to talk about this. And during that course of time, when they all talked, their opinions changed. And for me, that is what is where the law should come in. We shouldn't need to wait for 12 people to choose the fate after listening to two lawyers arguing. What the law should be doing, and we can change all this, what the law should be doing is coming together, both sides of the argument, getting all the evidence that all these other departments go, not look for the big buck to get a guilty plea or an innocent plea, but just searching for the truth. So for me, I believe there's ways around this. Now, I said a second ago, we can change it. Of course we can. I mean, we are the people. We elect prime ministers. We put our kids through college and schools. We vote. We do this and that. We can rise up and say enough of these poor innocent people that are going to jail, these poor innocent people that are going to hospital and not getting the same help as somebody else. Everyone, that is not a fair system. The law is corrupt. The medical and things is corrupt. Everywhere we go is corrupt, and people are arguing, and people are forget that the law, is there, but we help make the law. Okay, if we didn't obey the law constantly, maybe we can change it. I mean, we have a small group of people telling us what to think, what not to say, and what to do because they believe that's the right way for all of people in the country to live. If you think back 2080, we're so different just now than 40 years ago because we are constantly getting told what not to do, what not to say, yada yada. And in this day and age, when there is money supposed to be there, technology advance, we're still having corrupt solicitors, corrupt doctors, corrupt movie makers, and it's all about the rich. If you're rich, you will basically be fantastic. Law can't really touch you. You'll have your own police force. You'll have lawyers. I mean, look how many celebrities have gotten away, compared to somebody like you and I. So it's we need to work on the lower end of the scheme, the people in the street, the low people, because the law isn't working for people that are collecting bin lorries or doing the shopping, compared to people that are high up in offices that will take 10 lawyers when we can only scrape by one lawyer a day. This world should not be owned by the rich. It should be owned by everyone, and everyone has an equal say and an input in what should be and what shouldn't be the law. That's my thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you.